Never mind.
I think we're live.
I think so too.
I think we're live from New York. Let's go make sure that
Live from upstate
everybody
New
sees
York.
us. I've got
Huh?
to go to this page. I got to refresh it. I got to hit the little button. It's not showing yet. Oh, I spelled refresh wrong. Hang with us, folks. We just want to make sure we're live. And we have the new chat roll in here. It says it's live. There we go. We got it. I just stopped it so we don't listen to that. Okay, we're here live from New York. We should play that music.
Yeah. Except I forget which one it is.
I'm Ellie Walsh.
And I'm Carol McCaskey. Hi.
And we are here for the law of Napoleon Hill's Law of Success. We are on lesson 13 according to this book, and it could be lesson 14. It depends what book you're reading. It doesn't really matter. It's called Failure.
Of all things for Napoleon to name a chapter.
Failure.
Almost incredible.
It's a word. Now, those of you that really know me know I don't like that word, so stay tuned to see what I have to say about all of this. Are you going to, catch us up to speed here and give us a rundown?
A little bit, yeah. Well, it's also uncharacteristic for Napoleon to use a word like failure. So it does catch your eye when it's towards the end of his book. It's what on earth is he talking about at this point, failure? Well, he puts a little twist on the word failure and gives it new meaning. He calls it either temporary defeat or adversity. And he says it's sort of a bouncing board from which you can find opportunity for even greater achievements in your life if what you were doing did not work out the way you thought it would. Now, when he first started, he gives 7 examples in his life of what turned out to be what some people would call failures. But as I said, he calls them temporary defeats, and they always led to something else. He does say that in the very beginning, well, actually through most of these experiences, he was looking for success through profit, monetary success, money and power, and he was defining that as success. It wasn't until later on in his life and towards the end of these experiences that he began to realize that there's something more to success than just money and power, and he actually began to look for that, and he found it. So let me see what else I can say. These cover like a 30-year span, and I think I mentioned there were 7 incidences in which he endeavored in different areas, and each one of them was pretty what we would call successful until something happened. And at first, I'll start off with the first one. The first one, he went to school and learned bookkeeping, and he got himself a job as a bookkeeper and a stenographer. He worked there for 5 years. And he was doing more than what he was paid for, something that he describes in the book as in one of his chapters as one of the stepping stones to success. And he also was using initiative. He didn't wait to be told what needed to be done. He looked around, saw what needed to be done, and addressed it on his own, independently. And he was advanced as a result of this. He became actually a general manager. And this was in a, sorry, I'm getting into the second one. He became a general manager, and as I said, he was there for 5 years, and he did very well. He was making a very nice salary for those times. And then his employer went bankrupt. So that was the end of Napoleon's so-called success in that area. And let me pass it over to you, Ellie.
You know, right away, I think I stepped away. I kept not wanting to read this chapter because of the word. And I don't like the word. Anyone that knows me knows I don't like the word. I always talk about the certain words you should probably take out of your vocabulary blame, guilt, failure.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, I can't read this, you know. So I have to laugh because he starts out and he says, under ordinary circumstances, the term failure is a negative term. And in this lesson, we're going to give it a new meaning. And that's when he calls it temporary defeat. You know, and he actually says here, the word failure has been a very much misused one. And for that reason, it has brought unnecessary grief and hardship to millions of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with that. That's why I don't like the word, because we just, as a community, as a society, we seem to agree on the definition that failure means something bad and horrible, like you screwed up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it. So, you know, bringing that hardship of, you know, grief and, you know, just feeling like so bad about yourself. It's why I don't like the word. Yet, truthfully, I would say, and I know there's been sayings of it. In other words, if you have no, show me the person that's never had a failure and they've never done anything.
Mm.
They've never stepped out of their comfort zone. They've never taken a risk. They haven't followed their dreams, because I do believe we're all programmed really to step out of that so-called comfort zone and to follow our dreams and desires. So right away I liked him the minute I read the first. You know, I like him anyways lately, okay? So anybody that's watched us from the beginning knows I didn't really want to read this book. And I'm amazed at this guy, the knowledge and the wisdom that he had. And I believe, probably this whole book, you could read it and reread it and reread it a year later and reread it a year later, you know, and you would get amazing insights from it. And actually, we've been told to do that. But this is a chapter, I believe, that's worth rereading. Because
I think you said that in every chapter.
oh, because he talks about, though, you know, he takes these 7 so-called failures in his own life, and he goes through them, you know, and he does talk about, you know, the things he's gained from each of these. And the biggest aha, I think, was, you know, when he finally gets to that 7th one, and, you know, his life's not over then, and there's more to Napoleon's life after this, but in 1928-27 when he wrote this, but how it led him, in essence, those 7 so-called failures led him to not just success, and you're right, he used the term success according to money and power, but led him to a fulfillment. So I would call you a purpose.
Mm.
And it's really funny because I was talking to a friend on Facebook who, a mutual friend of ours, and he was telling me that somebody he knew was doing a survey of people in their 40s. And these were people that were in jobs that were, you would consider like decent salaries, CEOs, corporate people. So they had decent salaries, and they still all had that worry of, oh God, will I have enough for retirement? You know, everybody has that. But one of the biggest ones that came up was that people were afraid at that point in their lives that they will never fulfill their purpose.
Right.
And he was like surprised at hearing that. I wasn't surprised at that, because of the people that I've worked with through the years, that, you know, people will call it their passion, their purpose, but there's that innate calling, and you know what, when you were 7, you probably knew what it was, okay? But you don't know what it is when you get older, because you're trained not to really hear it, not to really listen to it, but you know there's that feeling of there's something more, there's something more. And that's what Napoleon, you know, he came to, what he felt as though was his purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But it took these so-called failures to bring him there.
Right. If I might jump in here for a couple of minutes.
Sure.
Okay. just to run down quickly, his second failure came with the panic of '07, which was sort of a run on the banks, if anybody's seen that in history. So that demolished that venture that he was on. The third one, he was in a great business. He was making a school, and somebody lent him some more money to expand, and then he got in over his head, and they foreclosed on him and took his business away. Then I think this was the beginning of his insight. He went to law school after that and got a great job with his in-laws, who had a coal business, mining business.
Right.
And he became eventually he became head counsel for them, and he could have just rested on his laurels, and everybody was praising him and told him, what a great career he had ahead of him. And it was certainly secure. His in-laws were not going to fire him, and he was making good money. But he found that he was falling into a status of inertia, and there were no more challenges. It was too safe for him. So he said, there's something more that I want than this. So he quit, and they thought he was a little bit nuts. And then he decided to go to Chicago, which was the big city for him in those days. And he figured, what's that song? About New York, if I can make it in New York, I can make it anywhere.
Right. He felt as though
if he could make it in Chicago, he would anywhere. And he got into a business with one of his previous employers, and they started a candy business, which was doing great. And then somebody embezzled the thing away from him, and actually ended up putting him in jail under false charges. And he said that was quite an experience. When it came time that he could have had retribution about these people, he faced himself and he said, do I really want that? Do I want revenge? Or do I want to, be a nice guy and live my life and let happen what happened? And he decided to do the latter. He didn't press charges against them, but they ended up going to jail anyway because of other felonious business endeavors they got into. And there's just one more, and then I want to make a point here. He started a school, and just then World War I started, and the school was doing very well, except all the young men who were in the school left school in order to join the army, and actually so did he. So he was losing huge amounts of money, and that was the end of that business. Okay, so we went into the service. The World War I was over on 11/11 of 1918. And go ahead, Ellie. You want to pick it up from there? What happened on that
I don't care about him. I care about how this applies in my life. But I do.
This is where he made his big change.
This is when you read this and you realize these so-called things that you probably term yourself as failures, and other people around you term them as failures. Oh, this didn't work out and that didn't work out. These are all experiences, and I believe they're opportunities. I could write 2 books. Okay, I could write one about all the freaking screw-ups in my life. Okay?
Right.
Or about all the opportunities and experiences that I've had. Because, I know we have a mutual friend who laughs when she hears about all the different jobs and endeavors I've done through the years. And every now and then, inevitably, I still end up saying, oh, and this. And then she goes, you didn't tell me that one. And we know each other for a lot of years now. So I think I've told her them all. But all the different things I've done. And I wasn't raised to do that. And I had a double feeling about that. Okay? I was like following that gut instinct and feeling like I'm screwing up. So a very interesting conflict that would go on in my life, and being termed as that failure, that didn't work, and so you screwed up there, you're a failure, you're a failure, you're a failure. And I don't know if anybody ever, in my family anyway, said it to my face. They didn't need to say it to my face. They just needed to look at me at some times. And also then take that, there was my interpretation to it, confused about who you really are and what you really want to do, and then because being taught you should be following this road that you do know in every damn bone in your body, holy crap, that road I am not comfortable on. So I could write either book, and so that's why this is so important. And then seeing his progress. You know, first it was about, for me too, okay, well, I don't know if it really is about that. I was going to say first it was about power and money, but you're trained for it to be about power and money. You're trained that the word success means you made a lot of friggin' money.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're trained. But
you have a good position.
Right, and I don't think that really, I mean, please, look, I love it. Like, yeah, show me the money, okay? But there was more that was calling me to the things I did. You know, and so when I look at that pathway of many different, you know, being a dog trainer, working as a bookkeeper, being a locksmith, the list could go on and on. First of all, I've had incredible experiences that not everybody can say they have. And I realized that each one of them, as he realized, brought me closer to that purpose. That's what it did for me. So when I look at this book and at his stories, you know, I didn't like all the poems he talked about. I'm not a poem person, but if you're a poem person, you might like them. You know, I can really get from that, I don't know, there's even some kind of acknowledgement, you know, or permission. There's some kind of permission involved in that when you read somebody else that, you know, that followed these pathways, and you realize, no, I'm not a failure, and I'm certainly not alone. And if you're an entrepreneur, this is your story. You know, he was an entrepreneur, even though he worked for people at different times. You know, he had the spirit of an entrepreneur. So for me, always these chapters are all about how can I take this information, and is it so-called outdated? And maybe the way he words it is outdated, but it's not outdated information. And how can I take that and apply it to my life today? Huge. You know, that's why I really say this is one of those. If you read through these and you see that it's true, you could realize people must have mocked him, especially when he quit that job.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I think his wife.
And I've done that. I've done that.
I got on him after that.
I actually quit jobs. My family was like, "Did you lose your freaking mind?" Okay, to be a dog trainer. I quit jobs. It's a long story. So they wanted to kill me. Like, what are you doing? You know, and that's almost hard to explain because some of us have that calling huge, you know, and so you're feeling like you're in between these two places. And I'm like, yeah, I quit. And they're like, what? Are you nuts? And I didn't beat, I beat a dog trainer for a little while, and I was like, no, I'm out of here. I went and did something else. So people could call that a bunch of failures.
I think what happened on, just to kind of bring this together, on Armistice Day, the day that the war ended, he was in an office building, and he was looking out the window, and he saw mobs of people in the streets just celebrating. And he was just looking and thinking, and it hit him that what he really wanted to do was work in newspapers and publishing, that sort of thing, so that he could reach a lot of people. And he wanted.
I'm gonna interrupt you because what he realized is since he was a little boy, he wanted to do that, and kind of, I guess, put that on a back burner, forgot about it until all the way at this point.
And for him, that meant heart and soul, putting his heart and soul into something. So it wasn't money and power. It was heart and soul, which was success for him. It just, I think it all clicked. And that same day, he sat down and he wrote out his version of the Golden Rule. And it was rather lengthy, and it talked about ameliorating hardship for his fellow man and making them happier. and rendering service to the world, et cetera, et cetera. So that's really what his bent was in life, and he did find it. And I think that's what you're talking about. I don't think, I know that's what you're talking about, Ellie, when you said you were, tried this, tried that, tried whatever, and then, boom, you found what you wanted.
And unfortunately, one of the I don't know if it's still a saying. I'm not around people that talk like that anymore. But one of the sayings of the days when I was growing up was "Jack of all trades, master of none."
Master of none, right? Mm-hmm.
And that was not a compliment, okay? And I was a jack of all trades. I happen to believe I mastered quite a few of them. At least I mastered them to the point that I wanted to. So you see, today I can look at all of that. I'm so grateful that I've learned how to do that. I don't go back and go, I screwed up here, I really fucked that up, whatever I said the F word on here. Probably not the first time. I can look at all of that and say, look at all the things that I had the guts to try and had the experiences from, and always gained from it. Now, maybe the gain is, oh, baby, I don't want to do that no more. One of the gains of having a job was, oh, baby, I don't want to do that no more, because I was not highly employable. I was not an easy employee, I guess. So without those experiences, who would I be today? Like, what if I would have got caught in that career path? I came close, especially in math, because it's funny. I finally recognize I'm an extremely creative being, but I was good at math. I was good at math. And there was some excitement to math for me for a while. And I had the banks and all even sending me, paying for my school. And so I could have went on this career path, and I go, oh, I wonder who I would be today. I'm not saying that it's good or bad. It would definitely be different. There's no doubt about that. It would definitely be different. So, what I heard from him, he also kind of talks about that. He calls it fate. The fate knocked at his door when he got fired from this, or he went bankrupt from that, or I don't know if he ever got fired. Did he ever get fired?
No, I don't think he actually ever.
But he lost a job because of this, or he went bankrupt in a business because of that, and he calls it fate. I don't like that word. Again, see, I'm a word person. It's semantics, but fate almost means my destiny's already laid out, and I don't really gotta do much. Just follow it. So, I guess what I hear him saying is there's what I would hear him saying fate is, and I would agree with, is there's a calling, I think, within all of us. I don't think it's a specific, in that absolute area, but there is some kind of a calling. And so when you look at these different circumstances that went on in your life, for me to end up speaking, I like to do public speaking, and I was scared crap in school if they wanted me to get up and speak in front of a classroom. So if you would have said to me when I was a teenager or something, I'd be like, what are you, nuts? I'll never do that. And then I don't know, I guess my early 30s, somebody handed me a microphone. And I went, holy crap, I love this. Now, I was talking about a topic that I love. I don't just want to get on the microphone and hear my damn voice. I was talking about a topic. And the topic was about uplifting people. So that's really, really important to me. So, again, I would have never known that. So I don't know if it's a specific fate, but I guess we all have a calling. From the people I've met, I don't know. Do you think
that people have a calling from within?
Right. Oh yeah.
Yes, a burning desire someplace, whether people recognize it or not. It's there. Yes, I think people do, and I think it gets a lot of times it gets squelched. I know for myself, I came out of college and was working for the county on Long Island, and it was it was the beginning of a career for me. and I was doing social work then. I actually liked it. I liked social work in those days. It was great. It was back, dating myself, back in the 60s, and there was a lot of money floating around, the war on poverty and what have you, and they were helping people actually to lift themselves out of poverty, and I was part of that, and I enjoyed it. But then other circumstances led me to go to Puerto Rico for a while, and I couldn't speak the language, so I couldn't do anything professional down there, so I did chambermaid. I worked in a drugstore for a little while, in a pharmacy, and a hotel. I did restaurant business and barmaid. And finally, I just was so tired from this. It was laborious, the work, that I said, no, I'm going back to New York, back to my career. So then I got into the career path from there.
Right. All right. I see where, my God, you see, every week we go, oh, do we have enough to say? Because this was one of the shorter chapters. But I think, again, this is jam-packed. If you can read this and hear what he's saying and being able to apply it in your own life. That understanding and acceptance he ended up. And he, like you said, when they happened, he didn't. He felt as though he was a failure. You know, but... So he hit my, he hits my bones every now and then. He talked about, and it's in this book, it's on page 521. It depends what book you have, what page it's on. But he talked about self-approval is a dangerous state of mind. And of course, I totally disagree with that.
Yeah.
I totally disagree with that. So when you read what he's saying about that, I think it's more... like just this, I don't know the right word for it. If you want to call it a big ego, I don't like that word either.
I think he meant like narcissism, that kind of stuff. Taking it to the extreme.
You start thinking you're better. You start thinking you're better than somebody else because you, on the outside, or maybe on the inside even, you're doing better than somebody else. It doesn't mean that you are better. So I believe that idea is a dangerous state of mind. That you believe.
I think that's what he meant.
And I do think that as you read that, but that word of self-approval is it. I think that if you don't have self-approval, you are in a dangerous state of mind if you don't have self-approval. Especially because we have a tendency, again, society, if you are an entrepreneur, an out-of-the-box thinker, society has a tendency not to have a good approval of you. So you need to have that self-approval. And don't look for it from anybody else. So you need to approve of yourself, believe, and that is how you so-called turn this word, how you call this so-called word failure into defeat. I don't even like that word. To me, you are doing nothing in your life if you haven't had any failures because you haven't taken any steps. So, and you have to have the self-approval to allow those steps to unfold.
He does make that point that you have to run into, I think he calls it adversity, in order to eventually expand. Yeah.
Well, isn't that idea in every adversity there's a seed of opportunity?
Right.
So it always comes down to what's my perspective. Am I going to see this as shit that just happened, or am I going to see this as an opportunity? First I went from this is crap horror to okay, and then I learned to call things challenge, because for me that was a better place than this is a problem, this is bad. Okay, it's a challenge. It meant I could come above it, and that worked for me for a while, and then there's a progression, and then I was able to go to, no, you know what, everything's an opportunity. Even on its outside, if it looks like crap at that moment, and things sometimes that happen, I would go, yeah, it sucks, and I'm going to figure out the way that it's an opportunity. And so that's that state of mind, and I think you have to have self-approval to be able to do that. So approve of who you are, approve of your own experiences and your own beliefs, and not get into that thing of I'm better than somebody else, and don't get into I'm worse than somebody else. So, you know, I had to add my 2 cents on that.
Of course, of course. I'll also throw out something that he said along the way that he learned, and I've heard this from the leaders of our new community company that we belong to, and that is to learn something, you teach it. You know, out of all of these experiences, he put together this whole program for the book.
Right.
And
That's right.
And it was also an educational program for a school. So he then taught what he learned through life experiences. And I love this thing he said at the very end. He said, "No one has the right to brand you as a failure except yourself." So don't let other people judge you.
Right.
And probably don't even judge yourself so hard either.
Well, that's it, right? Just if you're looking at things, realizing, okay, there's no such thing as failure being bad. You know, we should embrace the word failure. You know, I hope someday society turns that around, because the more failures somebody has, the more they've done in their life, the more experiences they've had in their life, and the closer they are to their own success. And that does not always mean money and power.
Right. Right.
Okay, but that personal fulfillment.
Fulfillment. Right.
That's success.
Key word. That's the word. Yep.
Cool. All right. We're at the hour, I think, the half hour.
Yep.
Next week we are on tolerance.
Tolerance.
I don't know.
Should be interesting.
We'll find out what they are.
Yep.
Intolerance, and he talks about intolerance, tolerance. I don't know. We'll figure it out till next week. We will be here next Monday, as far as we know. We'll do purposes. I know we missed you for a few weeks here. On this page, if you're at the website, there is a link for the playlist of all the previous lessons that we've done. So go catch up with us, watch it. We really, really, really appreciate your comments. So ask your questions, leave your comments, tell us if you love us. You can even tell us if you don't like us. It's okay. It's your opinion. I have self-approval. Do you, Carol?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I like what we're doing.
So we've just taken the word failure and we've turned it into an absolutely fabulous thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Ready to get out of here?
Good night, everybody.
We'll see you next week.
Yep. Bye-bye.